Right, so guys, hello and welcome back to another episode of our Tribulation Soldier COMS YouTube and Facebook. And like I've said in the previous videos, we're populating this particular channel with testimonies of myself and Sharon's lives before and after God. You know, all these different things that we've been through and stuff that we did and stuff we made big messes of and stuff like that, you know. But hopefully in this testimony series, guys, that again, you just see God in this. You really see God in this. And before, I've really been talking about, you know, like the womanizing, the drinking, drugs, all that sort of things that we used to do, and almost a comparison to what we have now. And this one's a really important one. As always, guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit notifications. Obviously, we've got our Birnie Family YouTube as well, where we've got an adult channel, you know, with Motorbike Vlogs and all sorts of stuff like that. And we've got our kids channels, all kiddie stuff, gaming, shorts, all sorts of stuff. So I hope you really enjoy that. Yes, we're back out to the bike shed and it is getting pretty cold in Scotland now. It's actually really cold. You can probably see my breath at the minute. And it keeps raining on and off. We're under this big sort of tarp, and so a wee bit of that going on, bit of birds and stuff, but hopefully that won't distract. Yeah, so I came up to the point where Sharon and I really gave our lives to the Lord and really started following Him, and that was around the sort of 2002. And of course, like 9 months later, we got married, and you know the rest was kind of history. And obviously, guys, as we go through that, you know, I had like 4 years of ulcerative colitis and surgeries and stuff like that. We had good times, we had bad, and all sorts of things. But you know, we'll get into that a little bit after. But when we came back to God, we really came in among this, really what we call spirit-filled Christians. You know, very in tune with the Spirit and really talented. I would say professional and very experienced at dealing with issues. And boy, oh boy, did we need that. I still sort of say to this day that at that particular point in time, I don't think there was people around that could have dealt with me and the kind of problems I had, or the same again when it went with Sharon. Because obviously mine was a little different from Sharon's. I fell away from God, so I picked up a lot of problems in that time with just so many different things. Sharon was like a brand new Christian, but obviously she'd stuff in her past, and a lot of that came from her childhood. Our failed marriage, it only lasted from when she was 17 until she was 19. It was a very quick thing, and of course Jamie, her stepson, came out of that. But we had some major issues, you know, and this relationship that we had, this marriage, wasn't going to work out unless God did something. And what God tends to do in these situations when two people are really on the same page, He takes you first as individuals and really works on this unique issues that you have, you know. I didn't have the same issues as Sharon. She didn't have some of the same issues as me. So he had to take us as individuals, and in that's how he brought us together as a real married couple. Yes, a lot of Sharon's was childhood related, and in that there was abuse and various things like that. Again, I keep saying I will get into that at some point with Sharon. Again, me, just look back up on the testimonies. It was all alcohol, womanizing, drugs, stuff from my past, stuff that I had to let go. Things I had to do, things I had to forgive. But God has that specific way and that specific time to do things. And the Christian life, guys, it's not just a belief system, and it's not just this thing that you go to sleep at night thinking I'm a Christian, you wake up in the morning. You actually live this life and you experience God. But before that, we didn't. We basically just did our own thing. But in this church, wow, guys were really good, and they really sort of came in and around us, And like I said, some of the people there were very experienced with dealing. It's almost like a psychiatrist in a lot of ways, but it's a little bit different. When it comes to being a spirit-filled Christian, you obviously go as you feel led by God, and you can just crack problems in one night if you have to. It's really quite something how God actually brings these things up and engineers it to actually deal with it. And not only deal with it, but really let it loose in your life, and it's just so good, guys. Yes, there's people there from my past, in the church, church friends and stuff like that, so that was all really good. And of course, we're quite young at the time, obviously. I think I was 23, 47 now. And so obviously we gave our lives to the Lord there. We were baptised there, and we were married there, 9 months later, that was it. So really in that environment, having that type of people around you, God can really work. And he really went to work a lot of the practical things as well. You know, had a lot of debt, credit card debt. We'd finished college, obviously, with student loans. We had car payments, you know, all sorts of things. You know, neither of us had been good with money. You know, we just lived month to month and week to week, really. But that was an aspect really God took a hold of, and you really saw that actually happen in our lives. And of course, these things can only happen over a period of time. And it was a very short period of time, but it was a period of time nonetheless, where God was just unpicking all this rubbish and untangling. Sometimes just cutting it all away and replacing it with something new. But obviously, guys, and all you guys all know, your employment, your financial situation can have a real bad effect on you if things aren't good in those areas. So of course God just takes that and begins to roll with it. And before long, it wasn't that long afterwards, a little longer for me, but we really moved up in our jobs, as it were, you know. And I actually took on a completely different job, which I never looked back. It was just tremendous. I'd always been in the motor trade up until that point, and I felt God really leading me towards being this heating designer in a local merchants. And you just couldn't really get why this job would be good, but I took it and it was just brilliant. I so enjoyed it. And of course Sharon moved on as well. She was always in the care industry. She worked in an old folks home for quite a while and various jobs like that. But now she'd moved on to working with adults with learning disabilities, and she actually became the manager of the project that she was running. And I think she had about 20, I think it was 25 adults with learning disabilities, and what a job, I mean, really. So God started unpicking a lot of these things, and obviously the financial situation improved, the stuff started getting paid off, and of course we weren't as frivolous with our money, you know, we're really good with our money and just making sure we're keeping it right and doing it right. I mean, more things changed, and I know that, you know, some things in life don't last forever, you know, and we had quite a circle of friends before we actually came to God. But when you come out of that alcohol, or you come out of that partying and all that sort of stuff, you start to have less and less in common. The more you grow as a Christian, as a person, the divides just start to happen. They're all still good friends, obviously, but as I always say in these things, you know, guys, I had some great friends, you know, really good friends, and still are. But obviously we were taking a little bit of a different route, and it brings that sort of gap, and it gets bigger and bigger because you're not really doing the same things that you used to do. You can't really relate to them on the same level, you know, and things do really change in that as well. And obviously our whole social thing changed. I mean, we weren't nightclubbing anymore, we weren't doing any big parties or anything like that at all. But not a lot of people are good with change, you know, and I'm not really either, but God just seems to have a way of doing it where he gradually sort of weans you from one place and into another. It's not like he just bang slap most of the time. You know, he really knows, he weans you from one place to the other. You know, a lot like he'd wean a child from milk to solid food. You know, it takes time. And during that period, your life can really change. And not just in this whole boyfriend-girlfriend marriage thing. If you're a single person, God still takes it on. God will still take on all those situations and really improve your life. And I think that's what he did with us. He had a lot of stuff he needed to sort out, not just emotionally, but just practically. And the differences in that were just tremendous. I mean, they were really good. Our quality of life really came up. But we had some major issues, you know, and like I said about Sharon, we'll share about that another time. But I had some real corking problems, and you've heard most of them already. There's a lot more that I'll share in the future. But what you find is in life, guys, is that a lot of these things are like chains. You're trying to walk forward and it's difficult. Everything always seems to be so difficult. And what God does is not break those chains, he removes them completely. And all of a sudden your life begins to change. You start to feel so much more free. You start to feel like there's so much possibility. Great hope for the future. You start to feel like you've got a purpose, because all that stuff is now going away. All of it's going away. And it's the hallmark of God, because you see him doing it. I mean, you really see him doing it. And of course later as a pastor, You get to see those happen in the congregation too. You can look and you think, I was there, I remember that, I can see what God's doing there. But God actually showed me that I wasn't really living life. You know, it maybe looked like I was, but I wasn't, you know. And I kind of looked at my life and I thought, you know, just have the house, marriage, job, all that sort of things. I don't do anything, really. You know, I didn't really do much. I did a bit of DIY and things like that and work on the car and things, but nothing really major. And it was then I changed, you know, as a person. I actually started to enjoy life, you know, doing stuff. And we actually got canoes, which was unheard of for me. I used to love caravanning, so we got a caravan and stuff like that. And I went from this guy who was quite happy to come home, have a supper, sit in front of the TV with a beer and go off to bed. And that's all that I seemed to do. And now, with God, I was getting really excited about just doing stuff in life. I could never understand before how you had a good time without alcohol, or how you felt happy without alcohol. How do you do that? You know? All of a sudden, God gives you a bit of a zeal for life. You want to try things, you want to do different things. And that's what God says. God says, I haven't come to give you restrictions, I've come to set you free. To live your life, to have true life, and life in abundance. But you might look at us and say, oh yeah, okay, you do all these things and whatnot. You've still got a house, you've still got a marriage, you've still got kids, you've still got all this. You know, what's the difference to what you had before then? And the difference is, guys, is and I can only explain it as the feel of it all. Just the feel of it all. And I remember just before me and Sharon got married, I moved back into the house. You know, we'd just been dating and stuff like that. I moved back into the house and I can remember going up the stairs and into the bedroom. I just felt, the house just felt so different. And I was chatting with my pastor the following day and I said to him, I said, you know something, my house feels totally different. And my pastor said to me, no, it's not the house that's different, it's you. You're different. All of a sudden, guys, all these things I'd been taught in my past, that marriage will wear you down, having kids will just be a nightmare, and all that sort of things, become the things that you love the most. That you really appreciate being married to someone and appreciate that person and really enjoy it. Enjoy having your own home. Realising that all these little things in life that you thought were just rubbish before are actually some of the biggest. And it's amazing how your life moves into that. And it doesn't have to be in the marriage path for that. That's just the life that God gives you. You feel different. You think it's the atmosphere around you. It's not. It's you. You're different. And of course now with God, you're being led by God. Not only in your marriage life, but your work life, all these things. You start making better decisions. You start making decisions you're not really sure about, but you know it's God and you go for it. But it just makes all the difference. God just leads you and leads you and leads you. If you let him, of course, you know. Sometimes you kick against it, but no. But yeah, the difference between life before, as I said in the previous one, guys, is just night and day. Almost having the same as what I had then to what we have now as such, materially or whatever, but it being 100 times better. And it can be so much better for you, you know. This is what I mean, guys, you know, I'm always saying in these sermons, you know, that these sermons are more directed towards those of you that are maybe, you know, searching, you're sort of looking around and wondering. That's what these are directed to. Real life in abundance. I'm hoping that you see in this sermon, guys, is just all the normal stuff of life. It's just the normal stuff of life, you know. How God can take all that and make it into something very, very beautiful indeed, if I can use that word. Something very, very special. You know, if you're single, God's got someone out there for you. He's got a life out there for you. This is what he does. And if you think he doesn't want to be a part of your life because you're just so-and-so who lives in this little town, in this little village, that is nonsense. You are no less or no more important than any other person. And God will do it for you. And he does give you that life, you know. And sometimes, of course, you know, sometimes I don't appreciate it like I should do at times and things like that. But generally, absolutely, you know, it's so good. It really is. But God also gives you that view for the future. You know, you've got that purpose. You feel like there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to your life. That there's something going to happen. there's always a little expectation of God doing something a little bit different. And of course, guys, when it all comes down to it, it's just you and him. You never really feel that alone. But that's what it was like in myself and Sharon's marriage. You know, we really took on God as individuals. God really took us on as individuals, you'd say. And it just naturally, working in Sharon, working in me, brought us together to have a great marriage. It's actually very difficult to explain, because sometimes with God you just see the results and you just wonder how this actually happened. Why am I happy? Why am I married? How did we get here? That's the adventure, that's the journey with God. So I kind of rambled along in this sermon today, guys, you know, but I just felt like sort of touching on a few things, sort of bouncing around. You know, I really want to share with you about our testimony as pastors. Because obviously we're right at the point when Sharon and I came back to God and we got married, when we actually received our calling. And it's very important to me. I'm going to be doing three little sermons, you know, about who we are as pastors, how we actually came from being called to where we are today, because that is hugely important. But for now, guys, listen, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit notifications, of course. And again, we've got a Birnie Family stuff there for you. And as I always like to say in these sermons, guys, you know, we're not going anywhere. You know, we're right here. And I'm going to keep working hard to share all these experiences, all these teachings, all these things, so that you can have that great life in God. In Jesus' name,